Welcome inside the Sunday pig pile, everybody. Post-football season, it's less pig, but there's still a little bit of pork in there. Fear not. We've got off-season football news, and we thank you for being with us. Coming up here tonight, my friend Laurence Holmes is going to join us from Chicago's The Score Sports Radio Afternoon Drive, because are the Bears actually going to go to Indiana? The saga that never continues, or never ends, I should say, in Chicagoland with the Bears stadium situation. Also, Ben Spectre is back, so we've got another round of Ben Spectre gadgets. Your beam up, so keep those comments going, and your Little Mo laugh of the day. By the way, for my Clevelanders out there, I've told you this before. One of my all-time favorite teams and favorite eras are the 80s Browns. When I was young, and I'm talking about like 86 through 90 or so, the team that captured my heart and my imagination more than any other team in any sport were the Cleveland Browns. Watching those games at Cleveland Municipal, an old barn that looked rattling and shaky and about to fall down, always had the baseball diamond in the middle of the field, so it was quirky and weird. The one end zone is just buttressed up against the corner of the end zone so you could run up a hill almost in bounds of a touchdown. You've got fans wearing dog masks, eating milk bones, and a team that seemed to always have a cardiac arrest with every game, with Webster Slaughter, Reggie Langhorne, the dog pound, Hanford Dixon, Frank Mitterfield. They would bark like dogs. Ernest Biner, Kevin Mack. I just loved this team. And the quarterback of this team, obviously, 3 AFC championship games in 4 years, was Bernie Kosar. So when I saw this T-shirt on eBay, as I sought the prizes for the Touchdown Club monthly, our giveaway here on this channel, I just had to. Look at this. Look at this. Is this amazing or what, boys and girls? This is just beauty. A cartoon fathead, Bernie slinging it, ripping the rock. I mean, come on. I had to. Absolutely had to. So I'm here to rep for you, Cleveland. I'm here to rep for you, Browns fans. You know I am the Robin Hood of sports. Rob from the rich, give to the poor. By rich, the teams that always win, we steal from them. We give them to the franchises and the fan bases that never win. At some point, it will be the day of the Browns fan, of the Bills fan, of the Bengals fan. It will be the day of the long forgotten and downtrodden fan bases. Jets fans, one day this will be for you. Well, maybe not Jets fans. Vikings fans, one day this will be for you. One day, you too, Lions fans, will celebrate. Trying to do my part here. So there you go. That's how we start things off. Before we get to Laurence Holmes coming up here at the top of the hour, it's time for the Furious Five. Coming out of the combine, Diego Pavia wanted to set the record straight. He was not going to change who he was, which was a confident, borderline brash, very brash, really, borderline arrogant quarterback that had a swashbuckler mentality, wanted to compete, wanted to go out there and prove you wrong. He wanted to make no mistake that was still going to be his brand after college, going into the NFL. And I'm here to tell you, it's a massive mistake. It's a massive mistake for that to be the brand you build on, because what you have there is going to freak out and scare every single NFL GM. You will not get bonus points for, quote, being yourself if you're Diego Pavia, and here's why. You can get away with little attitude. You can get away with little chip on your shoulder. But you know when you can't get away with poor decision-making or immaturity off the football field? When you're 5'10". When you're 5'10", they're looking for reasons not to draft you. You've got to be so buttoned down. You got to be so to the cross of the T's, the dots of the I's. That's when you must be at your best, because they are looking for reasons not to draft a 5'10 quarterback. And Johnny Manziel just imploded fabulously in front of everybody in the NFL. I'm not saying Diego Pavia is a drug addict like Johnny Manziel. I'm not saying he didn't take the job seriously like Johnny did not. What I'm saying is undersized quarterback, swashbuckling mentality, some poor decisions off the football field, and undersized. No GM wants to touch that. If I was Diego Pavia's rep, if I was his agent going into the combine, I would have completely written a different narrative. I really would have. I'm not saying you have to dial back and be inauthentic to the point where you're faking the whole thing. But Pavia proved after the season, when he did not win the Heisman, if he was willing to go in front of a club and know that there's cameras all over the place and video going, etc., and scream or blurt out or take a stand against the voters, to F the voters, and to basically kind of flip a middle finger at the establishment. You know when you can do that? When you're 6'5". Simple as that. And when you ain't, they'll look for reasons not to pick you. It's not like Diego Pavia is already a top 3 pick in the NFL draft, and it's, hey, boys will be boys. This is selling yourself to future employers, owners, general managers. And to sit there and puff out your chest and say, man, I'm not going to change. Anybody that talks to me, this is the competitor that I am, blah, blah, blah. Man, it's just the wrong tactic. It really is just the wrong strategic tactic. Because what you don't have is the biggest thing NFL executives will grade you down on before you even say a word: height. They'll get by if you're slow. They might get by without great arm strength. They might look past you if your release time isn't that quick. They might actually overlook processing time. They might overlook wins and losses. If you didn't win a ton of big games in college football, they might not even translate that. But the first thing they're looking at is size. And sure, you could be Kyler Murray, but you better be the number 1 pick in the draft. Pavia is not. Yeah, you could be the height of Drew Brees, but you better then be the best guy in that locker room. Pavia is not. The idea that you can marry these two things, being undersized and have a bad attitude or be a problem or question your decisions off the field, yeah, good luck. That's all I would say. Is if you think that's going to work coming up in April, good luck with all that. Speaking of Kyler Murray, there we go. All right. Kyler Murray has always been a disappointment. Always. From day one. He's always been a disappointment. Okay? Because disappointment can come in different forms. But as a quarterback in the NFL, highlights don't get you anywhere. You got to ultimately win ball games. You got to ultimately create confidence within your locker room, within that huddle, and for your coaching staff that's trying to get you and the organization to the next level. And Kyler Murray has never done that. Kyler Murray can run around and total 25 yards of scrambling before he ever lets go of the pass. And that pass might be a beautiful rainbow down the sideline ultimately for a touchdown. You could have a game or a play like the Hail Murray against the Buffalo Bills a couple of years ago where he pulls a rabbit out of the hat, and you might even get to a playoff game like you did a couple of years ago in Arizona. But Kyler Murray has always been more sizzle than steak. And the fact that the Arizona Cardinals are willing, in his prime, at this age, to say, we're good here, we'll just release you, according to reports, tells you all you need to know. And I will never forget having the narrative sown by the Cardinals try to buck the evidence that was in front of us. When they signed him to the contract extension following his rookie deal, we all know the now most infamous addendum in any contract stipulation ever. And it was, you got to limit playing video games. And we all know what that meant. We all know what that meant. It meant we're going to give you a lot of money here, and we don't want you to work less. We don't want you to take this less seriously, to feel like you've already made it. We don't want you to go soft on your prep. We don't want you to get too arrogant because now you've got the bag. And that window into Kyler Murray told you everything you needed to know about Kyler. That even the people that were giving him the money didn't necessarily trust him at that juncture. Now, I'm not here to defend the Cardinals organization in any way, shape, or form. They've been a bad organization for a long time, and by and large, throughout their history, they are a absolutely poor organization. But you might remember the narrative spun after that of, oh, it's unfair this got out. Oh, this should have never been leaked. This was a coach, a GM, or an owner that wanted to embarrass Kyler Murray. That was the way it got slanted to then defend Kyler Murray. And what have we had since then? We've had one playoff appearance in which Kyler Murray played one of his worst football games ever. And the Cardinals didn't step off the bus, essentially, when they got to that wild card game. We've had ensuing years where he has been less effective and now injury prone. And an organization that has not had a homegrown, solidified solution at quarterback in how long? I mean, the glory days of this organization at quarterback was Kurt Warner, and that was Kurt Warner in his 30s after 2 previous stops. How long do we got to go back? This is an organization that's been searching desperately for a 10-year solution homegrown at QB and unable to find it. And they've got the guy that they drafted number 1 overall and paid all this money to, and they are willing, reportedly, to just cut bait. I don't want to hear it about Kyler Murray. It's evident commitment was an issue. Staying healthy was an issue. Consistency was an issue. Being coachable was an issue. Video games was an issue at some point in time. And bang for your buck. It ain't worth it. And the fact that the Cardinals might have to flat out release him because there is no trade partner should also give you a perspective of the other 31 teams in this NFL. A league that is obviously always desperate for quarterbacking. And we're just coming off Sam Darnold, where the ultimate reclamation project is right there in front of us. And there's 31 other teams reportedly that are not interested in Kyler Murray enough to trade any asset for him. So the Cardinals would just have to flat eat it. Just have to cut him, have to release him, take all that money on themselves. That tells you all you need to know about Kyler Murray. That's it right there. End of discussion. You need not read anymore, hear anymore, think anymore. It is all right there in front of us. By the way, tonight, I have to say, we love our folks at Santo Tequila, Guy Fieri and Sammy Hagar's signature tequila. And salute. Cheers to health. We're coming out of this winter. We're coming into the spring. Here in the Northeast, temperatures a balmy 50 degrees on Saturday. It's going to dip down to the teens tonight, but you know what? I can smell it. It's around the corner. We've hit March. March Madness is here. The tourney. I feel like we've made it out alive together. Yes. Speaking of college basketball, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Can we just talk about Miami, Ohio? Because the Red Hawks feel to be one of, I think, the best stories in college basketball. Miami, Ohio is one of the best stories, if not the best story in college basketball, because we need them in the bracket. We need them. In 2026, we need something like this. Now, for those that don't know, Miami of Ohio is still undefeated. We've now hit March, but they play in a one-bid league. And so the debate is, if this Red Hawks team does not win the MAC, the conference tournament, and is handed a loss in its league tourney, can it make an at-large bid? And there are many people that say, no way, that according to Ken Palm ratings and net rankings, et cetera, quad one wins, et cetera, they got nothing, no resume, nothing whatsoever, because the league is so bad and their non-conference was no good. I'm here to tell you this. If they lose the conference tournament, they better be in the bracket, because it gives us something to hang our hat on. You have to understand and you have to accept that college basketball has taken a huge blow in terms of popularity since its heyday, let's say in the 70s and 80s, when you had guys that stayed 3 or 4 years, topped off by, let's say, Georgetown and Patrick Ewing through the early to mid 80s. Then you have the Duke teams of the early 90s and the Razorbacks under Nolan Richardson, 40 Minutes of Hell in the mid 90s. And you still have these teams that are built with a brand, with an identity, with a coach that you remember, that you know. And that is a squad that is defined by that year, and you can rattle off the players on that roster. That begins to fade as one-and-dones come along. And then when Kentucky does one and done and Duke adopts one and done, the whole country becomes one and done. You then really don't have a sense of place with a lot of these teams, players. Then you add the NIL transfer portal situation and all of the legends retiring, so they don't have to deal with that. The Jay Wrights and Coach K's and Roy Williams and Jim Boeheim's, and go down the list. Now you have a lot of faceless, nameless coaches on the sideline as well. So you have programs that you're not necessarily familiar with. You have coaches you're not familiar with, and players are changing at a crazy clip. What you need in March is this, is the what happens to Miami of Ohio? Do they belong in? Do they not belong in? They're undefeated through the regular season. They got to go in. And of course, they're going to get an automatic bid if they win the MAC conference tournament. But the question is, if they are handed a loss, what do you do? And I say you have to put them in, because then everything rides on their game. Everything rides on that matchup. If you put them in just by virtue of the storyline, Miami of Ohio quickly becomes one of the most interesting stories in March. This is not about deserving as much as it is what the fans deserve. And I don't want to hear that they take the spot of the 66th ranked at-large team or whatever. Give Miami, Ohio a bid, even if they lose. They better be in this bracket. It gives us something to hold on to. Speaking of college hoops, I was up in Syracuse last weekend. I went to the UNC Syracuse game at the Dome. And the fact is, Syracuse is right now on hard times. They've got a 500 record. They've got a losing record of the ACC. It's going to be 5 straight years without the tournament. And they're going to end up firing Adrian Autry after season number 3, all of which without a tournament bid. And they're going to have to find a new AD as well, because John Wildhack is retiring in July. A lot of instability happening right now at Syracuse. And so there's a big worry in Central New York about whether this is an elite job and whether they can draw somebody that might have other options, and whether it was really just Jim Boeheim and the magic of the Big East that built that program. And all of that is now out the window, dissipated into fairy dust or snow on I-81. And the answer is it's still an elite job, but it's going to take a special person. Jim Boeheim was a special person, even if he was a crotchety curmudgeon that argued with officials and student media, etc. He was a special guy because he was from upstate New York, and he had no interest in going anywhere else. And his giant, larger-than-life persona, when the Big East was larger-than-life, was the perfect fit alongside John Thompson and Riley Massimino and Rick Pitino and all of those guys. Autry is not that. And today it's hard to find that. You don't have coaches that have that big personality anymore because they're just not around long enough to do so, and you can't treat players that way anymore. But I sat in the Carrier Dome for a squad that's not going to make the tournament with most of the 23,000 people in that building waiting for Syracuse to lose. And I looked around and said, who else gets 23,000 people on campus for a game when it's not going to be a tournament season? They're there. They are waiting. They are starving. They are there. The problem is Syracuse oftentimes acts like a mid-major when it comes to funding, when it comes to NIL money, when it comes to vision. And I don't know what this looks like this offseason. I really don't. I don't know what this looks like because I don't know who the new AD is going to be. And I don't know how much push there's going to be to play it safe, to do something that's not going to rock the boat. But you do need somebody to flip a switch. And there are guys that can do it. Look at Dusty May. There are guys that can do it. But do you have the right people in place that can convince the next Dusty May or somebody like that, this is the place for you? And that's still a worry that I have and that every Syracuse Orange alum would have. Is this really a great job? Can it be a great job if the people in charge above don't have the right vision? The Chicago Bears situation is this incredible game of pickleball that's going back and forth over the net. And from on the outside, it's like, what is going on? So I thought we had to dig into this because there's so much at stake, even if you're not a Chicago Bears fan. I could think of no better person to bring on than a guy that I've known for 20 some odd years. He is the foremost authority and voice in Chicago sports talk. He anchors Afternoon Drive. He's a native of Chicago. He's as good as it gets. Let's have a warm round of applause for my friend, Laurence Holmes. My man!
DA, man, it's been too long. How are you, man?
I'm really good because I'm wearing my throwback Bernie Kosar t-shirt.
I thought that's what that was. That's pretty dope. Speaking of throwbacks, if you look at my studio, I got the Chicago Vice, baby, with Jim McMahon and Walter Payton.
Those posters from the 80s and 90s still resonate so much. And that one's so great because it's McMahon, it's Walter Payton, it's at the pinnacle of the Bears, it's the pinnacle of Miami Vice. It's them in like 80s pastel in front of a sports car. It has everything.
It's Jim McMahon with a Mac 10.
Before we had to worry about the message about violence, it could just all be fun in sports.
It was crazy. Like, you're right. Like those posters from back then, whether it was that one or the Junkyard Dogs poster with the Bears offensive line, is just crazy. Like some of the stuff that we grew up with. I'm so happy that my parents like kept this in their garage for forever. And then I went over there and I said, you know what? This is going in the office. I'll find a place for it.
I love it. I love it. Well, man, I mean, this Indiana situation from afar seems ridiculous. Everybody's like, you can't move the Bears to Indiana, but most of us don't understand the geography of how far that's going to be compared to where most of the fan base is coming from. So in terms of going to Indiana, what was the reaction to that piece of news a week ago?
Well, there's a lot here, DA. The first thing is that the only thing that really happened last week with Indiana is they created something that the state of Illinois has had for 40 years, and that's basically a stadium authority, something that they can dump money into to help forge and build a new stadium in the state. And the state of Illinois used this to build new Comiskey Park over on the south side. So this has been going on in Illinois for a while. It hasn't been the case in Indiana. So no decisions have been made yet, to the point where there hasn't been really a site agreed upon in Indiana. It's likely that if they get the opportunity to do it, it'll be in Hammond. And for those who are not familiar with the geography, the city of Chicago like butts up to Hammond. Like we are connected by a toll road. It is the equivalent of Hoboken for people who are familiar with New York City, for example. It's right there. My dad taught on the southeast side, or the east side, as people over there say, for 20 years. So I'm used to being over there. The area that they're talking about, the Wolf Lake area, is actually connected between Chicago and Indiana. So this is right across. And if you need even more, it's probably about 10 miles from there, the proposed site, to Soldier Field. So it's actually closer than Arlington Heights. If the proximity to the city limits matters to you, if that's one of the things that will help make your mind up, it's very close. And I know that you're talking to your audience is talking to a national audience, so they may not understand this, but we call that area of Northwest Indiana the region. And the region is kind of different than the rest of the state of Indiana. That those counties, those 3 counties that are close to Chicago, they consider themselves closer to Chicago than Indiana. Like that's they get our television, they get our radio, they're in our time zone. For example, you go one more county over and then you're on the Eastern time zone. But those counties in Northwest Indiana share the clock, television and radio with Chicago.
Okay. So that makes a lot more sense here, because this predates us, but this is the Giants moving to the Meadowlands. You're moving out of the state and into New Jersey, but ultimately it's right next door. So it's really not a distance thing. It's just an identity thing. And so that's what are people in Chicago and specifically Illinois bothered that you could call yourself the Chicago Bears, but just play in Indiana, even if it is that close?
There are definitely some. I've been joking about it on the air. My mother is one of those people.
Okay.
She does not want Indiana to have anything. And so she's upset about all of this stuff that's going on. It's a viable option, though. I don't think that it's a slam dunk as a lot of people think it is, but it's definitely a viable option. A couple other things from a geography standpoint that are necessary to know. That area on Lake Michigan, because that's where these 2 counties that are closest to Chicago sit. They sit on Lake Michigan. There are a bunch of oil refineries that are there too. So there's going to have to be a really robust environmental study done on the site at Wolf Lake, just to make sure, because there's been a lot there between the oil refineries, the steel industry in Gary, Indiana. It's something that they should keep in mind. But it is a place where, and there's going to be some infrastructure, and there'll have to be some sort of marriage between the 2 states when it comes to this stuff too, because the toll road that leads out of Chicago into Indiana right now, it's $10 a side. Like if you're a Bears fan that wants the shortest route to Indiana, it's taking what's called the Chicago Skyway, and the Skyway is going to cost you. And I would imagine that if Illinois loses the Bears to Indiana, that there might be some surcharges on game days for people if they want to go over to Indiana to watch games.
Sports in this era of incredible political, international, and domestic turmoil is a real safe space for so many of us. And I find myself connected more and more to nostalgia of sport because it's warming and comforting, and stuff like your posters, etc. This t-shirt make me feel good. And the Bears playing under a dome distinctly makes me feel bad. And I hate this feeling that I have that the Chiefs might have a roof, and the Browns might have a roof, and the Commanders might have a roof, and the Broncos might have a roof, and the Bears of all teams might have a roof. Is there a way that a stadium in Indiana does not have a roof, or is this across the board? The Bears, wherever they're playing, are going to be in a dome?
No, they're doing that. Wherever it is, if it's in Arlington Heights or Northwest Indiana, if you look at what Kevin Warren helped build in Minnesota, like that's the idea that's going on here. He said in the projects, in the vision of the projects that were on the lakefront or near the lakefront near McCormick Place, that he wanted there to be like a glass dome so that people could still see the Chicago skyline. And you wouldn't be too far away. Like you can actually still see the skyline from that area of Northwest Indiana. You won't be as close to Soldier Field, which is in the middle of the skyline as it stands right now. But yeah, they want to do this, and they want to do this for a couple of reasons, DA. They want all of the extra stuff. They want to be in the mix for the Big Ten tournament. They want to be in the mix for the NCAA tournament. They want to host the Super Bowl. They want to host concerts in the winter. And this is something that the Bears have been moving towards for a long time. I've tried to explain to people because I've covered the Bears for a really long time. And part of the issue here is they have a partnership with the Park District. That's where most of this acrimony comes from. That partnership hasn't been very good over the last 30 years. I would say, though, over the last 3 years, with Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, and Kevin Warren being the president of the Bears, those two guys have done a great job of patching up what was a really scary relationship between the two sides, which is part of the reason that Kevin Warren kind of wanted there to be another stadium built on the lakefront. The Bears revenue, they don't get that revenue, like the revenue from when Taylor Swift comes here or Beyonce comes here, that goes to the Park District and then goes to the city. If the Bears build on Arlington Heights or if they build in Northwest Indiana, they're building essentially what the Cubs have done over in Wrigley. And then they're going to control the parking. They're going to control the non-game day revenue. They can put up a gambling site, which was another issue. Like if you're trying to get something like that done at Soldier Field, it's a little bit difficult to do that for a lot of reasons. Some of it has to do with the actual charter of the city. But if they get their own parcel of land where they can have all of these things, that is something that they legitimately want and have wanted for a long time.
Which plenty of ownerships want that. But do the fans want that? Do the fans want to become the Vikings and the Lions and sit inside at 68 degrees and watch January football inside a dome?
They act like they don't, but I think that they kind of do. And,
man.
And where we've gotten to with this is, I say this all the time and it's unpopular, and I'll cop to that. These are now television studios. All of these places that we're talking about, all of these new places, they're television studios. So I don't think that Bears fans would have a problem with it. The Vikings have been inside for a very long time, whether it's the new place or it was the Metrodome. So the Lions have been inside for a really long time, whether it was the Silverdome or where they're at now, right? So it's not that weird for even teams in the NFC North to go inside. They want to build something spectacular, and they want it to be multi-use, and they want to own their property. That's where we're at. That's the goal. They can reach that goal in either one of those places, but trust me, it is definitely their goal to build something similar to what Tom Ricketts and the Cubs have built over on the north side.
The only problem with that, and you're right that these are all studios for television shows. The problem is that when you have an open roof, the TV show is better. I mean, when you have snow, when you have freezing rain, flurries, blizzard, whatever, people automatically tune in. The TV show is that much more riveting. And it plays out time and time again. Weather games get bumped up. Weather games, ratings are good. And we cannot keep losing all the good weather games. If it comes down to it's just Green Bay and Buffalo, what are we going to do? There's going to be no snow games anymore.
We've lost, brother. We've lost. So look, all you can hope for is that you get a snow day in Denver again. And there are a lot of people who in Denver right now that are probably mad that their opportunity to go to the Super Bowl was thrown out because of how bad the weather was in the second half of that game. So there's arguments on either side of it. I'm fine with whatever they do. The dome has always been in their plan, though. There's never, from what I can remember, there's not been any rendering of a new thing that is open air.
Caleb's the real deal, huh? And I think from watching your clips, listening to podcasts of your show, seemed like Chicago, by and large, coming into the season was, well, we'll see. And then it was like, wow, maybe he's real deal. And then by the time we got to December, January, it was like, oh, this guy's got it. Confidence at a sky high level now for Caleb.
Yeah, and Ben Johnson. I think both. I think you have to connect those two guys because DA, even if we're talking about early October, there are still people that are like, I think I see something, but I don't know if I see the thing that everyone told me I was going to see when they drafted Caleb. Now I'm someone that's completely like come around. I wouldn't say I've done a 180, but I didn't like the way that his rookie season was handled. And I thought that he handled it in such a way that it's hard to not be a fan. There was dysfunction all around him. It felt like the organization thought they were going to draft Caleb Williams and it was going to fix all of their problems. And then you have this kid who, is still a young man, and him having to put the whole franchise on his back in a season where he didn't have proper coaching. They didn't do all the things that you would to help a young quarterback who's trying to learn how to do this. And then there's the Matt Eberflus issue with them and him losing control of the team by the time that we get to that awful loss to Detroit and Ben Johnson in on Thanksgiving. And then heads roll, and then he has another head coach that he's dealing with and another play caller that he's dealing with. I thought that he came through that really well. And then inside of last season, you have him do miracles on the field. There's still some inconsistency. The people who are closer to this from a quarterback standpoint than I am talk about the idea of he has to embrace the mundane, that it shouldn't always have to end up being Caleb rides in on a white horse and saves the day at the end. They love to make that easier for everyone, including the defense. And Caleb's talked a little bit about that over the last couple of weeks, where he said, look, I want to win either shootouts or blowouts. That's they should put that on a shirt, by the way. But that's what he's about. And he and Ben Johnson are both hardwired to not just try and win games, but they will try and embarrass you. And they dig that about each other. They both got a killer instinct that they found a lot of commonality in throughout the season. It was fun to watch play out. And he's a huge star. DA, after the season was over, Ben Johnson told him, get away from football. Like, get away from it. The next day, Caleb is at the Bulls game with Pete Crow Armstrong, the Cubs center fielder. Then they're at the Hawks game watching Connor Bedard. He has taken this city by storm. People want to wear the wired in headphone with one headphone out. They're getting the matcha drinks like he has so they can walk around with them. Ben Johnson's out here getting people free hot dogs from Wiener Circle. Like it's become a whole thing now. And the hope is that they can follow up on it.
Feels like a long time ago it was Matt Nagy and Mitch Trubisky. That energized couple.
Man,
far cry from that.
It's really wild too, because that season where things went really well for the Bears, and then they had that kind of weird season in 2020, and CJ Gardner-Johnson was out here having fights with Bears players when he was playing with the Saints, and then he comes to the Bears and becomes one of their better players this past season. Ben Johnson and his staff have done a wonderful job of energizing the fan base in a way that we weren't sure it was going to be, because it was scary here for a while, DA. You know, the Justin Fields thing, like people really liked Justin, but it never worked. You know, like they wanted, like, when his last game at Soldier Field, he got a standing ovation.
Wow.
And I think that's because people understood he was in a bad situation too. And he was just a super likable kid. And then Caleb comes in and things were better, but it wasn't, you know, we were promised jetpacks, you know, and didn't get the jetpacks immediately. And this past season, though, the wins, and for me, it was that Philadelphia game, that Black Friday game where you're like, oh, okay, like this is a real thing that's happening now. And it's been great. Like, it's been so much fun. I know that it's cliche to talk about like this league is better when this team is good. But Chicago as a whole is so much better when the Bears are good. The way people interact with each other on a Monday or a Friday after a Thursday game, when the Bears win, the way people rallied around this team after the Packers games, man, it was wild, because there's a lot of tension going into the playoff game. Even though the Bears had won the previous game, it would have felt terrible for them to go out with the Packers beating them in the playoffs again. That would have been horrible. This felt a ton better. And then the Rams game, I don't know if anyone took any readings on it, but I would swear that this city shook when Cole Kmet comes down with that ball, where Caleb Williams drops back 20 yards, throws the ball 51 yards, and somehow someone's open in the back of the end zone. I still wish Ben would have gone for 2, though.
Well, I'll tell you, one of my favorite parts of the Laurence Holmes experience recently has been when you told the governor of Indiana, yeah, I hope you come back if you don't get the team as well. I like that, as he was trying to take his victory lap. He said, yeah, I hope you do another spot if you don't actually land the Bears. Well done by you.
Thanks, DA. Because look, there's been a lot of spiking of the football here. And I think that it's premature. You know, it's got a Deshaun Jackson thing going on right now. And I think that Indiana is in play. Like this is not just talk. Like, they're serious about bringing the Bears over. And I do think the Bears are serious about being there. But if they can get what they want, which is infrastructure, which has been on the table, the state of Illinois has said that we don't want to pay for your building, but we'll absolutely pay for roads and train stops and all of these other things. I think that Indiana is definitely a viable option. I think if you ask George McCaskey in an honest moment, he would tell you that he'd rather be in Arlington Heights. Why else would you buy a $200 million piece of property if that's not the case?
Sure. Well, I think, I have a ton of respect for the show that you do, the way you handle it. Your podcast is phenomenal as well. House of L. You want to promote something that's coming up in the House of L for our audience too? Yeah, we've been having a lot of fun on the pod. And if you check out the House of L podcast, I did an episode with Michael David Smith of Pro Football Talk last week. And I don't know if you know this about him. He's a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I did not. He is also a fitness fanatic. He does a lot of crazy stuff. And like, I'll see some of the stuff that he does on Instagram. And it's like, remember when we were kids, DA, and we tune in ESPN2 and there'd be like the strongman competition? Of course, yeah. Yeah. That's what he's out here doing. Like, nice. Sometimes he'll just be like, hey, can I lift that rock? And then he'll just like do that. And so it's another side of a guy that we spend a lot of time with during football season and seeing him in a different light. So people should check that episode out for sure. It's a lot of fun. We got to get you on the pod, DA. Please, whenever you need me, I'm always there. And my final question is going to be, is that Jim Carrey? Jim Carrey? Where? Have you seen this thing on the internet about whether Jim Carrey's real or not? Jim Carrey accepted an award at, I believe, the French Movie Awards. Oh. And it looks like it's kind of Jim Carrey, but kind of his doppelganger. There's this whole thing going on now on the internet about whether this is really Jim Carrey, whether he's been siloed away somewhere, whether he has a doppelganger.
So it's like the Jamie Foxx thing all over again.
Yes. What has happened to Jim Carrey? Did he have facial reconstruction? His eyes are not the same. So I want you to
let me get on and see what I can find out here. I didn't know this was a thing.
Yeah, this is exploded
Jim
this
Carrey
weekend.
Clone.
Yeah,
I see that.
Does he have a clone? Yes. So
wow.
I know you're a comic book guy. I know you love these types of storylines, these subterranean clone war type of storylines. So you let me know whether you think that Jim Carrey has birthed a clone.
I am shocked by this. Okay. I would not have known that was Jim Carrey from Profile.
Okay.
Straight on, I go, oh, that's Jim Carrey. Profile, I'm like, who is that? Mm-hmm. So, okay.
For the record, I'm convinced this is his grand finale, his greatest act. I believe that he has set all of this up to make us wonder, because he did play Andy Kaufman in Man on the Moon. Kaufman was built an entire brand on, is he being serious or not? What's real and what's not? I think this is his Andy Kaufman.
That is some brilliant stuff by him, if it is. I mean, he's always been brilliant since all the way back to the days of In Living Color. You know, he's a brilliant guy. Man, you put me on the game on this one.
Okay. So I'm sure you'll lead off tomorrow's opening segment. Your monologue has to be about Jim Carrey.
Oh, yeah. We're definitely I'm sending this to my producers right now so that we can talk about this, man.
Laurence Holmes joining us from The Score in Chicago in the House of L podcast. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Anytime, DA. You're the guy. I love that.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks so much. Laurence Holmes joining us here on the show. Excellent as always. He's always got a great vantage point, a great take on things, hugely well informed as you saw right there. Great stuff on the Bears situation. Yes, I am convinced that the Jim Carrey thing is his plan, keeping us guessing, and this is his greatest final act. He has receded into, anonymity in many ways in the last couple of years, doesn't do public appearances, doesn't do movies, doesn't do any projects. I think he has planned this whole thing out. I think he's playing chess when others are playing checkers, and people think he's playing checkers or has been kidnapped or cloned or what have you. Final fifth of the Furious Five, and this is Kevin Willard. Kevin Willard, man, oh man, what a chump. Last year, we ripped him for his exit at Maryland and pointing the finger at how unfairly he was being treated. And now you have a guy that takes a post-game podium and says, quote, that coaching under Rick Pitino is the most miserable experience of his life. And he wants to break you and end you, and you just want it to end. And then the next day has the chutzpah to be like, he did so much for me. He's an all-time legend. It's what makes him great, and I learned so much. Boy, that's a different tone. That's a slightly different tone, is it not? We went from coaching under Rick Pitino is the worst thing that ever happened to me to, man, I learned some great lessons. Oh, you fraud. Oh, you phony. If you're going to sit there at a podium and really get raw about Pitino, which is fascinating, why can't you stand behind that? Why do you have to fluff it up? Why do you have to decorate it? Why do you have to walk it back? Why? Why do you have to soften the edges? Your real response to working under Pitino was the most miserable experience of my life. The next day it becomes, boy, but I learned so much, and that's what makes him great. You can be real about it. Kevin Willard, you want people to be real all around you. You want ADs to be real. You want ADs to be honest with you. You want NIL to be truthful with you. You want donors to be transparent with you. You can be transparent. You can say, yeah, it nearly broke me. But all of that makes me who I am. But it sucked. It was hard. It was overboard at times. Sure, be real about it. Kevin Willard, it's fascinating. When he needs authenticity, he demands it from you. When you get a brief moment of it, he can deliver, but then suddenly he's got to walk it back. It's not really what I meant, guys. Guys. What a chump. All right. Couple of things here. If you remember reading my columns at cbssportsradio.com, or maybe you've read my columns throughout the years at other places. When I was working local in Miami, I had a column actually in a magazine, a sports magazine. I had a column also in Kansas City, and I've written for years on my Syracuse website, The Orange Fizz. So perhaps you've been reading me for years. Perhaps you've never read a column of mine. I am on Substack now, and it's free. Substack is a really cool platform, which is a lot of personal columns about all types of subjects, but there's a lot of cool sports people on there. And so I decided to join because I love writing and because I wanted a place to house my columns, my thoughts, and I love writing. I wanted a one-stop shop to do it. It's a cool interface. It's clean, it's easy, it's simple, and it's free. I liked all that part of it. And so you can go to my Substack, just search my name on Substack and check it out. My most recent column was about attending the Carrier Dome last week. And yes, I'm going to still call it the Carrier Dome. It's the JMA Wireless Dome, but come on. And about that program. But I wrote a piece about Mike McDonald the week before after the Super Bowl, and before that about the Bills making a change at head coach. And I have a couple of columns up there. So if you enjoy my writing or want to read some of my writing, just go there. It's free. Bada bing, bada boom. And the cool thing is, what I find really cool is in this day and age, there is no longer a Sports Illustrated that is of note. You might not read much long-form sports. It might just be you read headlines all the time. But you don't really get into the depth of somebody's opinion because the local newspaper columnist is all but gone now. You just don't get people's thoughts in writing. You will get news stories. You will not get opinions in writing very often. I believe that there's still an appetite for that because I loved reading opinion columns in newspapers for years. So I want to do it. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. You can go there, and all it is throw in your email address and you'll get access to all my columns right there for free. And I think it's a really cool thing. And I think there's an appetite for sports opinion in written form and not just spoken form. So there you go. You can go to my Substack and check it out today. There's, I think, 4 or 5 columns up there. I just started it right before the Super Bowl kicked off. Okay. And we had a tremendous members-only live chat on Thursday. Adam, this is Santo Tequila. So delicious and makes you forget all about your friends. Andrew Bogus joined me on Thursday, and Bogues was great. He joined me for the full hour, 15 minutes. If you love the old DA show on CBS Sports Radio, if you were a fan of those 11 years, if you loved Bogues, if whatever, I thought it was a tremendous hour plus of just memory lane, kicking it around. We did modern sports topics as well. Talked about Canadian bacon and Mraz's efforts at it after the Olympics last weekend. It was really fun. That's available right now along with all of our members' exclusive content on this channel. This channel is 90% free, which is what it's always going to be. But there's a tier of stuff that I wanted to create for those that really have a tight bond with me and the show and the lineage of the show, etc. So there is 10% of the content that's behind a membership wall. It's $3.99 a month, and I think it's well worth it. Not only do you get all of the exclusive content on the channel, on the YouTube channel, you can ask me anything you want in every single month for the live chat. You get custom emojis. You'll see that right now in the live chat going on right now as we speak. You'll also have your loyalty badges on the side. You'll see the loyalty badges of my face, my cartoon face in all types of different colors. And you'll also get the opportunity to win cool vintage sports gear every month as part of my touchdown club in these monthly chats. So check it out. I highly encourage you to at least sign up for the month and watch the Bogish episode if you didn't get to watch it live. I think you'll really enjoy it. And then if you want to cancel after a month, go ahead and do it. But I think you'll really like it. And there's always more exclusive content to watch. And I just find it to be a really cool place to house a lot of really special things that I'd like to share with our hardcore D-aliens. So there's that. It is so good to have Ben Spectre back. Ben Spectre is our executive producer. He took a couple of weeks off from the show to be a research assistant on the Olympics for NBC. He is back, and it's time to create, or I should say, to unveil our newest creation, Ben Spectre Gadget Learns. Here you go. Look at this. There is Ben Spectre on that football field. And what's going on, Ben?
Hey, how are we?
Very well. How are you?
Good.
Yeah.
I'm curious. You're talking about how Jim Boeheim, he was this guy that went after student media, and everybody from Syracuse, I feel like, has a Jim Boeheim story. So do you have a Jim Boeheim story from when you were a student?
I was super scared to ask questions at those press conferences. So I would be there, but I just did not want to be embarrassed. And so I just really shrunk from asking him questions. But I did have a moment when we were recording something when I was already doing a radio show. I forget where. Maybe it was CBS. We were going to record something. And something happened with his connection and the person that was supposed to set it up. And he just blew up. He was just as frustrated and as snarky as possible. And I saw it in real time. And I thought, yeah, it's not an act. He's looking for the people to rip. But he never actually did it directly to me.
All right. That's a story, though. You got one. He never went at me. I asked him one question. It was a layup question. They honored Coach K, and I asked him what that friendship meant, or what the ceremony meant to him as a good friend. But asking Jim Boeheim a question is weird because it's not as if somebody's in the front pointing at people saying, "You go, you go, you go." You kind of have to just pick when he's done, and he's never done.
Right.
So I tried to interject about 3 times. I did ask him. He spoke at a seminar once, and I asked him. I don't know why he spoke at a seminar for student media at the ACC tournament, but he did.
Perfect.
I know, right? And I asked him, I said, did you ever go into press conferences with an agenda, wanting to attack one thing, wanting to attack one person? And he went on a long tangent and answered the question to a T about the rebounding to turnover ratio. Had nothing to do with the question whatsoever.
Interesting. Wow.
And I said, thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Very good. Here is Matt, who says, good evening to the good Ben Spectre.
Good evening.
Good evening. Yes, indeed. And Delta 9 Brian, am I really stoned, or does Ben actually look like Inspector Gadget as well? There might be a slight resemblance. Remember Inspector Gadget?
I've never gotten that.
He's a cartoon, except for the movie with Matthew Broderick. So I don't know if you feel like you look like Matthew Broderick.
That's a compliment to me.
Bueller,
I mean,
Broderick is a handsome man. Yeah. There you go.
So let's talk football.
Yes, sir.
Why not? Randy talks about how this was during your Kyler Murray Furious 5, how the NFL puts quarterbacks on pedestals before it's justifiable. I think that's true. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, because I think we're kind of at the end of that. I think teams are learning their lessons. They draft a quarterback in the first round. The quarterback is suitable. They might go to the playoffs once. They're a suitable starter. And then they give them this big contract, and then the contract fails. Tua, now Kyler Murray. I'm not going to sit here and predict the future, but I feel like you might see the tea leaves for Jordan Love and teams at the end of rookie contracts, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young. They're having these conversations as to whether or not they're going to give that contract. Do you think that is the end of the conversation of putting the quarterback on pedestals just because of their draft position?
Well, I think Randy's right in that naturally in sports, when guys can be exciting and they show a little bit of promise early, especially if they're drafted high, people want to sauce them up. They want it to be exciting. They want new stars. Everybody wants fresh faces, new stars. So that is going to happen inevitably. And maybe Kyler Murray was part of that. But I don't know. I don't know, Ben, if all teams are going to be as judicious as they should be, because I think a lot of them will still get caught in, if we don't pay him, what happens? And the Kyler Murray thing imploded on the Cardinals, and Tua imploded on the Dolphins. But you brought up CJ Stroud. At this point in time, you could not give CJ Stroud a huge contract extension, but he's got a final year on this deal, his rookie deal. If he has a somewhat good season this upcoming year and rebounds, and they go to the playoffs and has a good playoff game, will the Texans naturally be forced into spending that money? And I don't know. I would like to think no, but all these GMs are desperate to keep their jobs. All these head coaches are desperate as well, and they don't want to go back into quarterback purgatory. So I would like to believe that you're right, Ben, that there's going to be more judicious spending with huge contract extensions. It would make for smarter team building. But boy, there's always a sucker out there with the GMs. There's always a sucker to be had.
Well, that leads into the next point that I wanted to bring up, the next comment here, where as long as Murray doesn't go to the Jets, I'll be happy. We're going to have a little bit of a Jets discussion here because there's some funny comments about it.
Okay.
But there's a bit of a movement that is in line with the don't give the quarterback who you drafted in the first round that might be a bust, a massive contract extension, which is look at Daniel Jones in Indianapolis. Look at Mac Jones in San Francisco for those few games. We're talking about maybe Malik Willis getting a 2-year, $35 million a year paycheck from maybe the Jets, right? And it's like, okay, you don't want to give the quarterback that extension, but like you said, what team will? And will that become the next project where they go to another franchise and they develop and win games? And then Sam Darnold, right? I mean, that's a perfect example. So it's an interesting conversation to be had.
I think that the Jets are a natural landing spot for Kyler Murray unless the Jets are done with trying to reclaim other people's quarterbacks like this Justin Fields experiment this past season. I mean, I think the solution for the Jets should be drafting a QB and sticking with it, like watching Sam Darnold succeed in a different place. But, you never know again with this management. Like, that's a perfect example. If they brought in Kyler Murray because Woody Johnson just doesn't want to have empty seats, and Kyler Murray somehow won 9 games for them next year, and they go 9-8, but they missed the wild card by a game, but they're playing for the wild card in week 18, they probably would give Kyler Murray another extension or whatever that looks like because they're so desperate for relevancy. I think Kyler is only going to get worse with age because his athleticism and speed is going to deteriorate. But again, I'll go back to there's always a sucker in the NFL GM world.
Yeah, the Kyler, I mean, he's not big enough to make up for a lack of athleticism that comes with age. And if you're putting video game clauses in contracts, it's like the Bo Callahan and draft day situation where if nobody shows up to his birthday party, then are you really going to invest in that quarterback? So
yeah,
I don't know. This is a bit on the more comedic side with the Jets. We talked a little serious about the Jets, a little too serious, in my opinion. Hello, everyone. I just paid tribute to Aaron Glenn and woke up from my Sunday afternoon nap in time for this. Is there a worse wake up than falling asleep, waking up, turning and seeing that you were asleep on national television on the job? There's been some bad wake ups, but that's got to be the worst.
It has to be the worst. The worst wake up for me right now is falling asleep when AJ is playing and I've lost consciousness and I was supposed to be watching him. And when I come home after an early show and I'm up at 4:00 in the morning and I got to come home and watch him before he takes his nap, or maybe he's sick and maybe he's not taking a nap and I'm like dozing off. If I doze off even for a few seconds or a few minutes and I wake up, I'm like, oh, did I lose the kid? Did I lose my son? And that's a terrifying vibe. But it's at least privately in my own home, and I can bury it if nobody's around. Nobody has to know that it happened.
Right.
Aaron Glenn to fall asleep at the combine, actually okay if you lean into it. Like, man, it's a long week. I'm watching offensive linemen run 40-yard dashes. What am I even doing around here anymore? It's February. But when you realize you're on TV, it's got to be terrifying. It's like, how long have I been asleep? If you've ever fallen asleep in a class, you're like, how long did I fall asleep? If you've ever fallen asleep on a bus, on a plane, in class, it's always like, oh my God, was my mouth open? Was I snoring? Was I drooling? Did I fall over? All this stuff. But you never have to worry about it being on national television at your job. That is the worst wake up.
It's always like, who saw? And then at least that was my reaction. If I zoned out, like, what did I miss? Who saw? Did I do anything weird? Did I embarrass myself? Aaron Glenn zoned out, turned and goes, oh my goodness, I was on national TV. Just that element, that added layer of, I don't know. I don't even know what word to put for
humiliation,
it.
paranoia,
embarrassment. Honestly, it's crazy. Yeah. So that was wild. But yeah, crazy
excellent
stuff.
Excellent as always. We love getting all your comments here, and keep them coming in the comment section because I love seeing them all. And as always, I wanted to let you guys know that I appreciate all the commentary because it keeps it lively and fun in this comment section. Moist Pork says, if I wore t-shirts, I'd wear that. I'd love that. That's this Bernie Kosar t-shirt. And yeah, I tell you, this DA's got an eBay problem. Yes, that is right. Now I'm shopping for vintage football paraphernalia for you guys in the monthly chats. And thus, I'm finding stuff like this and going, I need to have that. I have to have that. I'm going to have that. Ben, I wanted to play this clip from the Atomic Wings, because if you didn't catch this on social media, I released the full video this week. Let's play this. This is when I lost the bet to Maggie. I said the Bills were definitely going to make the AFC Championship game. She said they won't. I said loser eats a dozen Atomic Wings at 9 o'clock in the morning. She said deal. Of course, they lost to the Broncos in the divisional round in overtime. And here was the carnage courtesy of Dan and John's Wings in New York City.
You would have crushed the Pats. And they didn't belong in the room.
Just word to the wise there. Oh, I love it.
Okay, yeah.
Bite one.
John, if he doesn't suffer, we're going to blame you. Makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah. Now he's breathing. Now he's Darth Vader.
DA,
Yeah.
make it worse, dude. You really.
No. Oh, God.
So.
Oh, God.
Oh, gosh, DA, your face is contorted in a way I've never seen.
DA, because he left the bench now.
Bent. I was sick.
How did you ask? It's starting to go on my tongue.
Yeah.
John.
Oh, boy. All right.
It would be good because it's creamy. Bad bite, then it'll fit.
No, the lemonade
That's
is
the only
something.
thing.
Aren't you supposed to prep your stomach with like
Now.
5.
Yeah, we might lose him.
Times trying to pick up a.
Like Ernest Jones, Boban Marjanovic. Can you imagine that? If you're on college tours the rest of the year, and I mean, can you imagine that? Not at all. It's nothing like you've ever seen before. Real roasted and pure, 24 karat. Woo! And maybe we'll have some interest. I'm leading or not. A good job by Seattle. And in the Olympics, with a credit card fraud that she stole from one of her teams.
My mouth is on fire. Even the water's not helping. I'm sweating. I ffeel very uncomfortable. But I think everything inside has seized. Everything kind of shut down.
For the rest of her.
These are really good wings. Really, really good. I don't know who would ever order some.
You want to mention that.
Right.
Like,
You're close, but you still have 3 wings to go, right? 4?
3.
Yeah.
The worst part is tomorrow.
And that's much like a Bills loss. The worst part, this is why you're doing it.
Call it a Hooters, but for women.
Just crap out on it.
He's at like 101. He's okay.
I feel very lightheaded and weak. Everything now inside of me is feeling very weird.
Congratulations. You have achieved a new level of Scoville units.
I mean, boys, girls, men, women of all ages, you can rock with me. I pay my bets, and I got a toughness that doesn't come through with my persona on the radio, but I got guts. I got scrappiness. You're not going to defeat me because I want it too much, even if it means punishing my body in the process. I was not going to be embarrassed here. I was not going to not do this. I was going to take it on, take all comers. But that's what happened here. I did it. That's a dozen atomic wings at 9 o'clock in the morning. Really, it was like 8:20 to 8:45. I did a dozen atomic wings, and it should be noted that was John from Dan and John's Wings. He's from Buffalo. He opened up with his buddy Dan from Buffalo in New York City, so that they brought actual legitimate buffalo wings to NYC. And he said, this is the hottest wings I can serve without a waiver. If they're any hotter, you need a waiver. So they're legit. They were seriously legit. Now, I will tell you this. It was not as devastating as death by salsa. If you remember that bet that I ended up losing twice based on, I think, the women's bracket. I mean, the insanity that we put ourselves through on the DA show on CBS Sports Radio is otherworldly. And I think I lost the women's bracket 2 years in a row, and I had to do death by salsa. Death by salsa was harder because these wings are actually made for consumption. They are just if you have the hottest palate known to man and want a challenge. The death by salsa is supposed to be a gag punishment. That's the only reason you would make that. You could not eat that. You could not go through multiple scoops of that. It was like one was death. So that was tougher. But 12 atomic wings is no joke. And your boy did it. So there you go. I will tell you, though, that when John from Dan and John's Wings said it's worse the day after, it's true. I won't say it's worse, but it's just another layer of how it's bad. The worst part was eating them when I really felt lightheaded. And then I finished them up at 9 o'clock in the morning. The entire day I felt weird. I didn't run to the bathroom a million times. I didn't vomit. It wasn't like an explosive situation. I just felt really off and weird the whole day. I just felt like inside I was off. I just was a little bit weird and lightheaded, and I was not all there. And you ever just feel weird and off because something's going on? Maybe you're getting sick. Maybe you ate something bad. Maybe you're really nervous. Maybe you're paranoid. Maybe somebody's in the hospital. You're worried about how it's going to happen. What the diagnosis is going to be. Something is like in the back of your mind. Like that's what this was the whole day. And then the next day, upon expulsion, not great. It's just another layer of like the punishment of it. So there you go. I wanted to make sure that we got into the nuts and bolts of that. Okay. I love this comment, by the way. As Ruben says, my fantasy football team name is called Kyler's Film Club. That's a tremendous fantasy name. Tremendous. Okay. What I wanted to do here was wrap things up with this Santo Tequila is really good. The Little Mo laugh of the day. Okay. It's a Little Mo laugh of the day. And Chris in Buffalo says, do not touch your face. That's right. I did touch my face, but I made sure that the fingers that I touched were not the fingers that I used to touch my face. I think I was using my fingers, my index and my thumb, and I went like this. You might notice in the video. Okay, check out this video. You're going to love this. Ben found this earlier today. March Madness is in the air. Basketball is in the air. Watch this coach during this. We couldn't really play the audio because the audio was a song that had some choice terminology, but watch the coach in question here during the highlights of this game. You're going to see, first of all, the celebration is just phenomenal. As you can see, the crowd is going crazy. And you're looking at amazing plays back and forth. Here we go. A drop down bucket off of glass. And everybody goes crazy as teachers play students and the teachers win. And you've got a celebration going on with the teachers on that side of the floor, and everybody's going bonkers. Have you ever had the teachers or the faculty versus students game? It's tremendous, or just faculty versus faculty. We do this a lot as a fundraiser in my hometown. It's always a tremendous night. I've been there. The gym is absolutely packed to the gills, and here you go. The teachers getting it on, back and forth, steal, buckets, swish, off glass, calling it celebration. Ben, that, my friend, had it all as March Madness is in the air. Let's get you up here.
You might have buried the lead there. I don't know if I told you this. So I'm breaking news here on that video. That was Norris Cole, point guard for the Miami Heat in the LeBron, Wade, Bosch era with him and Harden.
Is he a teacher?
He's the girls basketball coach at that school and played for the teachers and dominated against the students. And he is still.
I didn't realize that. Oh my God, that's so good.
I was trying to verify this information and I couldn't find a good source for it, but I think he still plays professionally overseas. But I'm not.
Wow, that feels to be against the teacher-student code of eligibility.
I'm not sure, but honestly, it took me a lot to vet that because Norris Cole had the hair that was like straight up.
Yeah.
And it's good to see that he still got it,
So Norris Cole, girls coach, plays for the faculty in the faculty versus students game and lights up the student.
I was waiting for a dunk in that video. I'm surprised he was doing pull-up threes and transition.
Oh my God, that's great. That's really great. Oh my gosh, phenomenal. All right, excellent stuff. Love it. What a nice night. What a fun night. Kristen says, I had wings the other night actually from a barbecue place near us, and they are fantastic. You know what? I'm telling you, there's just nothing like on a cold day, some really hot wings. It warms up your whole body temperature. I absolutely love it when it's not defeating my body in all types of different ways. Throughout the off season, we'll just continue to do the Sunday night thing. It's not just a football season thing. Sunday night Watch DA Live is what I love. I see all my friends here in the chat. I love hearing from you guys. I love seeing you guys. And it's a great build up to the June Bob's Bar scenario, extravaganza, circus, whatever you want to call it. We got to get a date in the books. But as I said before, I think we'll try to target the same time we did it last summer, which was right after Memorial Day. So that Memorial Day weekend, you guys are free to do whatever you want before the summer kicks off too big. We'll do it again in New York. So clear off your calendar for maybe that weekend after Memorial Day. And potentially we'll do it at the original Bob's Bar, Bob and Nancy's Bob's Bar in West Babylon, New York. But as we kind of collect our thoughts coming out into the spring, we'll make sure that we get you as ahead of the game as possible to make sure that you can make plans. If you can make it out, we would love to see you. And starting next week with March Madness here, our friend Aiden Hatton is going to join us, the Marquette Marvel, huge college basketball guy. Last year, the last couple of years, we've done Making Tacos with him. He's given us some tremendous college basketball insights. Starting next week, Aiden will join us throughout the month of March to give you some insights into filling out your bracket. We're here for you. That's going to do it for us tonight here on the show. Thanks to everybody that made this happen, including Laurence Holmes from The Score in Chicago. He was phenomenal as always. Executive producer Ben Spectre. We did 2 weeks without him, but wasn't the same. Great to have my man back. That was great. And great to see all you guys in the comment section as well. I'll see you tomorrow morning on DA and Babs, Mad Dog Sports Radio, Channel 82. Be good and be good to one another. I'm DA. The mothership disconnects.